Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Let's have some fighting words. In this video, I want to do a fight prediction for Yordenis Ugas and Errol Spence, okay? So the guys have already weighed in. They're both looking in tremendous tip-top shape. So only thing left to do at this moment is to say who we think is going to win. So I've already made a list of criteria of things, and basically I just matched the two fighters side by side. And whoever comes out on top, that will be the one that I determine would be the winner of the fight. So here we go. Without further ado, experience. Pretty much they're a tie in that. They pretty much have the same amount of fights, so there's not a whole lot to go with there. I mean, I could make an argument that Errol Spence has fought tougher opposition, like with Danny Garcia, Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter. However, they both share a fight with Sean Porter. But then again, Ugas fought Manny Pacquiao. However, he fought Manny Pacquiao at the end of his career, after Manny Pacquiao has had many wars. So I'm just going to give that one a tie for that. Secondly, we'll come to power. Errol Spence has got a lot more knockouts than Yordenis Ugas. So I'm going to have to give it to him for power. Early on in his career, he was just laying dudes out. He was putting them all down. That has slowed up. Even he made the joke. He said, it hasn't been man down for some time. So, but he is looking to go back to his old self. And I think that's part of the preparation why he looks as good as he looks right now for the weigh-in, because I think he is going in with a mindset that I want to put this man down. I want to make a statement. Errol Spence does feel like he was robbed of that Manny Pacquiao fight, due to his eye injury, and then Ugas swooping in and then getting that victory. So I think by having an impressive win and victory over Ugas, I believe that he would have won against Manny Pacquiao. But I think that would solidify within him that he would have won against Manny Pacquiao in maybe dramatic fashion if he ends Ugas, if he stops Ugas, if he puts Ugas down and he stays down. So that's my thought on that. So I definitely give the power to Errol Spence. Speed, I also have to give to Errol Spence. I think Ugas he's fast, but I mean, if you look at the fight with Manny Pacquiao, quite frankly, I felt like Manny early rounds was faster than Ugas. So, and you're talking about a guy who's already in his 40s and he's faster than Ugas. I feel like, if Manny would have been like, I don't know, like maybe 38 or something like that, I probably would have been a different fight. But speed, got to go to Errol Spence. His speed has been a factor in most of his fights. You look at like his fight with Mikey Garcia, how he was just constantly beating him to the punch. I mean, he threw 100 million punches in that fight, but he was constantly beating him to the punch. And it's things like that that give guys a hard time. It's not the fact that he just hits hard. And it's not the fact that he's just consistent with his punches and his punch output, but it's also the fact that he's faster than them and he's getting off quicker than them. So now we go to durability. How much can a guy take? Now, this is hard. I have to give both guys a tie because I really felt like, Ugas came in like, a week's time or 2 weeks or something like that for the Manny Pacquiao fight. So he wasn't in his tip-top shape. And if he would have lost that, the argument would have been, well, he wasn't in fight shape or he wasn't in tip-top shape for this fight. True, and that was a hard fight for both guys, okay? Ugas was pretty beat and battered up as well. And not to mention, he fought Sean Porter. I don't care who you are. Anybody who gets in the ring with Sean Porter is not going to come out 100%. They're going to come out with a black and blue. They're going to come out scraped up, and Ugas was no different. Errol Spence, if you ask me what his hardest fight was, hands down, it was not Kell Brook. Hands down, it was Sean Porter. Sean Porter Sean Porter only lost that fight because of that knockdown. He was winning, and listen, prior to the knockdown, he was winning that fight, and I would gladly sit down with anybody and back that theory up. But again, that speed of Errol Spence, because that's the punch that took Sean off his feet, because they were both swinging at the same time, but also his ability to take it, the punishment, his ability to just endure and walk into the fire. And I think both guys have that, quite frankly. So I'm going to give both guys a tie for that. So now we have 2 for Spence and we have 3 ties. Versatility. Actually, before I go there, I'm sorry. I want to go to what I call dog. You know, how much heart do you have when it's on and you're in the deep waters? How much heart do you have? Again, I'm gonna have to say this is a tie because again, I'm looking at the last fight with Manny Pacquiao with Ugas, and listen, they were both throwing and they were throwing heavy, and you know they both wanted it. I just feel like, you know, Ugas bested Manny Pacquiao, but I feel like that fight would have been a different fight had we maybe a 2-year younger Manny Pacquiao, quite frankly, but Ugas has got dog in him. Listen, to come in like 2 weeks notice and then do what you did, you got some dog in you, and you got to respect that. He fought Sean Porter. He's pumping his chest, telling him to come on. Got some dog in you. Because, listen, anybody who fights Sean Porter is going to walk out scraped up. I don't care who you are. Errol Spence fought Kell Brook when Kell Brook was like on his stuff. And that was not an easy fight. You know, to my knowledge, he was the first guy that I had ever seen back Errol Spence up. And Errol Spence had to back off as well because Kell Brook is a big, strong dude for welterweight. But he stuck in there and he fought back, and it ended up pushing Kell Brook back. Same thing with Sean Porter. So again, I'm going to have to say this is a tie. It's a tie because you're talking about two guys who are tough and rugged and aren't going to back down, aren't going anywhere. And they both know how to search deep down within themselves to pull out some more fight. And that's called championship spirit, championship heart, and championship mindset. Not everybody has it. Not everybody has all three. Everybody has a mindset of a champion, you know, because you're in there. So you clearly have the mindset of a champion. You want, because that's what you want. That's your end goal. But not everybody has all the tools. They don't have the champion heart. They don't have the champion spirit and the mindset. That's the thing. There's three of them. It's not just one. Now, let's go into versatility. Versatility, just who's more versatile? Who can mix with any style? So when it comes to Ugas, I don't really feel like he's versatile. I feel like he just does Ugas regardless of whoever he's in front of. You know, and based on that person's way of fighting or style or speed or power, he'll either do more Ugas or less Ugas. And I think coming from that Cuban boxing background, it's just like, it's kind of elusive. But honestly, for a Cuban, he's not the most elusive guy in the world. Normally, they're all pretty elusive. Like, it's kind of hard to hit them. Kind of hard to hit them clean. I mean, look how old Lara is, and it's still kind of hard to hit Lara clean, especially in the open rounds. But when it comes to Ugas, it's just like, I'm going to do me regardless. It's a simple attack. It's nothing too complicated. It's ones and 1-2s, or it's 2. You know, and then he'll switch off to an angle. You know, like, it's nothing too complicated. He's not he will switch angles, but he doesn't have the greatest footwork in the world, or he doesn't use his footwork that much. Mostly because he's a lot of times he's bigger than other welterweights, so he doesn't necessarily need to be backing off or anything like that. And like I said, he's durable, so he can take the punishment. So he doesn't necessarily have to use his footwork. But it also allows him to just be himself because he is durable and because he is bigger than a lot of those guys at welterweight. So Ugas just kind of does Ugas regardless. However, Errol Spence on a flip hand side will switch it up. If you want a dog fight, Errol's going to give you a dog fight. If you want to box, Errol's going to box you. It just depends on whatever you bring to the table. That's what he's going to match you with. He's going to match you with and best you with your style. And if you look at you know, Mikey Garcia fight, Mikey Garcia likes to throw a lot of punches. I think Errol Spence was like averaging like 90 punches a round or something like that in that fight. I mean, he demolished him and just continued to throw punches. And he out Mikey Garcia, what Mikey Garcia does best, throw a lot of punches. And he outdid him that. Then you look at the Sean Porter fight. Sean Porter is a dog. Anybody who's going to fight Sean Porter, they're going to the dog yard and they're going to fight it out like two dogs over a bone. Errol Spence did to Sean Porter what Sean Porter does to everybody else. He got in close, he fought on the inside, and he's switching angles. He wasn't moving his feet that much. He was totally in a telephone booth the entire time, and he still won that fight. So when it comes to versatility, I definitely have to give it to Errol Spence. Resume. Now, here's the thing. Okay, so who has the better resume? I'm going to give this to Errol Spence as well because he has Danny Garcia, because he has Kell Brook, because he has Sean Porter, because he has Mikey Garcia. When you look at the resume of Ugas, I mean, realistically, he only has Manny Pacquiao. Like, now, granted, Manny Pacquiao's name holds a lot of weight. So if you want to say, well, fine, his name alone equals two of those guys. Sure, if you want to look at it like that. But resume, Errol Spence has been in there with much better opposition. And he's been in there with the top of the division. So I'll just say it like that. And he's beaten the top of the division. And quite frankly, if he would have had his way, Keith Thurman would have been added onto that list, by the way. So, and if he would have had his way, Terrence Crawford would have been added onto that list a long time ago. So, there you go. So, I got to give, resume to Errol Spence. So, let's see. Lastly, this is the end of my list, hunger. And I've struggled with this because it's just like, they're both doing this for different reasons. So if you listen to Ugas speak, he's talking about the American dream and yada, yada, yada. However, he's been in America for like 10, 11 years. So he's already been living the American dream. He lives in a big house and all these things. So it's just like, well, you have the quote unquote American dream already. So I don't know, if that initial or original feeling to win is the same today as it was 10 years ago. I don't know. Now, you look at Errol Spence. Errol Spence feels like he was robbed of the Manny Pacquiao fight. Errol Spence got into a car accident, and then he had to face tons and tons and tons of doubters who were like, I don't know if he's ever going to be the same. I don't know if he's ever going to walk again. I don't know if he's ever going to fight again. And then when he comes back, well, I don't know if he's ever going to be as good as he started off as. So he's always going to have to battle that incident in the back of his head because there's so many people who have placed that, it's almost to a forefront. Like, he'll never get out of that question, the car accident. And then you have, the eye injury. Well, he could re-injure himself and and it's just like, there's a part of Errol Spence that wants to prove something to Errol Spence, but there's also a part of Errol Spence that wants to prove something to you and myself, the people, and the doubters and the naysayers. So when I say hunger, I don't know if Ugas's hunger is equal to Errol Spence's hunger. Now, I can't really say that definitively because I'm not Ugas and I'm not Errol Spence. But when I listen to their interviews and I see what they're fighting for, yes, they're both fighting for legacy, obviously. Yes, they're both fighting for a unification. They are prize fighters, so obviously those things are the obvious. But who has something more to prove? I think Ugas has been proving people wrong since he got on the scene, especially, beating Manny Pacquiao. So I get it. You're the underdog and I get it, all these things, but you are kind of riding high right now. However, Errol Spence, yes, he came back. Yes, he beat Danny Garcia. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but you just keep having these bad things happen to you. And, I don't know if you're ever going to be quite the same again. And even though he's winning, that question is still looming over his head. So when I look at hunger and I say hunger, I honestly got to give it to Errol Spence, who has more hunger and who has more determination. When I looked at the weigh-in, I looked at their eyes, and it's funny, two guys can have the same look, but have a completely different meaning behind the look. When you looked into the eyes, when I was looking into the eyes of Ugas in the stare down, the final stare down, it was a look of, determination. But when I looked into the eyes of Errol Spence, it was a look of sureness. Like, I know I did the right things to be here. I know I belong here. And I know what you have around your waist right now is mine. And I'm coming to take it. It was a different look. And based on that, not to say you should ever base anything on a weigh-in, because that doesn't really mean anything. But based on that and this list that I have compiled, I'm going to have to say it will be Errol Spence. I definitely think Ugas will give Errol Spence every opportunity to say man down one more time. So I'm going to say either a stoppage, referee stoppage, or maybe somebody throws in the towel late. But I do see Errol Spence stopping Ugas. I think he's come prepared to stop him, and I mean physically has come prepared to stop Ugas. I think he wants to truly make a statement. Anybody who thinks that the Danny Garcia fight was a fluke or something like that, or if you think this car accident thing that I had a few years back is still bothering me physically, let me show you how much it is not bothering me. If you think this eye injury of mine is totally and completely altered my life and I can't function and it's going to be a factor in this fight, let me show you how much it will not be a factor in this fight. And I think for those reasons, Errol the Truth Spence will come in with a mindset of putting Yordenis Ugas down. And I think he will once again be able to say man down. So I'm going to say Errol Spence by stoppage. And with that being said, drop your comments down below. Tell me what you think. Do you believe that Errol Spence is going to win? Do you believe he's going to win by stoppage? Maybe you think it's Ugas. Tell me why. Drop your comments down below. As always, please like, please share, and please subscribe to my channel.